The alarm didn't need to ring. Evelyn Brooks had been awake since 3:30. The way she had every morning for the past 7 years, ever since the night the highway patrolman knocked on her door with 2 small body bags and a silence so loud it swallowed the rest of her life. She rose from the sagging mattress in the narrow bedroom of the 2-room apartment on the east side of Atlanta, her knees cracking like dry kindling. 69 years old, and the only thing that still moved without protest was her heart when it came to her granddaughters. She padded barefoot across the linoleum, past the living room sofa that doubled as Leela's bed, past the tiny kitchen table where Lena and Luna shared the fold-out cot. The girls were still asleep, tangled in the same quilt their mother had sewn from hospital scrubsky blue cotton printed with tiny caduceuses, the only inheritance the twins had left behind. Evelyn paused to tuck a stray braid behind Lena's ear, then pressed a silent kiss to Luna's forehead. 15 years old today, all 3 of them, though the state of Georgia still insisted on separate birth certificates. Identical faces, identical dreams, and one grandmother who had sold every extra hour of her life to make sure those dreams stayed alive. In the kitchenette she measured coffee with the same meticulous care she once used for morphine drips back when she was a licensed practical nurse at Grady Memorial. The year was 1972. The head nurse had taken one look at Evelyn's dark skin and told her the cardiac unit wasn't hiring colored girls just yet. Evelyn had smiled, said thank you, Mum, and gone home to scrub floors for half the pay. She had never forgotten the taste of that smile, bitter as the dregs in her cup this morning. Today, her granddaughters would board a plane in seats that cost more than she used to earn in a month. Today, they would sit where people like her had once been told they didn't belong. She opened the refrigerator and removed 3 lunch bags she had packed the night before. Peanut butter sandwiches cut into perfect triangles, apples polished until they gleamed, and a single Hershey's Kiss in each Vlin's version of caviar. On the counter sat the 3 small suitcases, identical navy rollers bought second-hand and monogrammed in red thread, LB. For Leela Brooks, LB for Lena Brooks, LB for Luna Brooks. Inside each lay the competition uniform she had sewn herself, white cotton blouses with the STEM Innovators Summit logo ironed on with transfer paper. Charcoal skirts hemmed to precisely 2 inches above the knee. The girls had practiced walking in them for weeks, terrified of looking ghetto in front of the judges. At 4:15 the apartment began to stir. Leela was first, as always the leader, the mouthpiece, the one who had learned to speak for all 3 of them before she could tie her own shoes. She unfolded herself from the sofa with the fluid grace of someone who had never known a day of doubt. "Morning, Grams," she whispered, voice husky with sleep and excitement. She wore the silver necklace their mother had given her on her 8th birthday, 3 tiny interlocked rings, one for each daughter. Leela never took it off, not even to shower. Lena followed, rubbing charcoal smudges from her fingers onto her pajama pants. She had stayed up past midnight finishing the presentation boards, adding hand-drawn diagrams of the solar-powered nanofiltration system they had built from scavenged aquarium pumps and soda bottle membranes. Her sketchbook lay open on the table, the last page a watercolor of the 3 of them standing on a stage beneath a banner that read first place. Lena believed in pictures the way other people believed in prayers. Luna was last, as usual, emerging from the cot with her hair in a wild halo and the prototype water purifier clutched to her chest like a teddy bear. The device was no bigger than a thermos, but it could turn muddy runoff into drinking water in 90 seconds flat. Luna had run the numbers 100 times. If their design scaled, it could supply a village of 200 for less than the cost of a single first-class ticket. She had begged Evelyn to let her bring it on the plane. Just in case, she had said, eyes wide with the particular terror of the shy genius who knows the world will try to take her voice. By 5 o'clock they were dressed, fed, and standing in front of the cracked mirror in the bathroom. Evelyn adjusted Leela's collar, smoothed Lena's braids, and straightened Luna's glasses. "Remember who you are," she said, the same words she had whispered the night their parents died. Remember whose shoulders you stand on. She slipped a folded $100 bill into Leela's blazer pocket. Emergency money, she called it, though they both knew it was every spare dime she had left after the tickets. If anyone asks why you're in those seats, you tell them we paid. We belong. The cab ride to Hartsfield Jackson was 23 minutes of held breath. The driver, a kind-eyed man from Ghana, recognized the competition logo on their luggage tags and refused to take a tip. Future presidents, he said, tapping the meter. On the house, Evelyn pressed the bill into his hand anyway. Pride was a luxury she could no longer afford, but dignity was non-negotiable. Check-in was a blur of fluorescent lights and two loud announcements. Evelyn watched the agent scan the boarding passes 3A, 3B, 3C, first class and felt her chest tighten with something between terror and triumph. The tickets had been purchased in installments, $5 here, $10 there, scraped from overtime shifts at the nursing home and the laundromat. She had hidden the savings in a Maxwell House can behind the cereal, praying the girls wouldn't find it and spend it on something frivolous like movie tickets. When the confirmation email finally arrived, she had printed it on the library computer and cried over the warm paper for 20 minutes. At the gate, the moment of parting arrived too quickly. Evelyn pulled each girl into a hug that smelled of cocoa butter and hospital soap. "Make your mama proud," she whispered into Leela's ear. "Draw the world the way it should be," she told Lena. "And you," she cupped Luna's face. "Keep asking the questions nobody else thinks to ask." The girls' eyes were dry. They had learned early that tears made adults uncomfortable, but Evelyn's were not. She let them fall freely, salt tracks on cheeks that had not known softness in years. Security was a gauntlet. Luna set off the metal detector twice, first the underwire in her prototype, then the titanium screws in her glasses. The TSA agent, a young black woman with a name tag that read T. Washington, waved the wand with practiced efficiency. "You building a bomb or a better tomorrow?" she asked Luna, peering at the purifier. Luna's answer was barely audible. "Both, ma'am." The agent laughed, stamped their boarding passes, and whispered, "Gate A17. Don't let nobody tell you don't belong up there." The gate area for Flight 319 to Reagan National was a different universe. Leather chairs, complimentary mimosas, a concierge in a navy blazer who greeted every passenger by name except theirs. Leela noticed first the way heads turned, the way smiles faltered when they realized the three black teenagers in matching blazers were not accompanied by parents. Lena clutched her sketchbook tighter. Luna stared at the floor, counting tiles. Boarding began with a melodic chime. "We are now inviting our first-class passengers." The line formed quickly. Businessmen in tailored suits, an elderly white couple celebrating their 50th anniversary. A tech bro with noise-canceling headphones and a laptop sticker that read Disrupt. The Brooks sisters waited until the agent called their group. Leela led, shoulders back, chin high. Lena followed, sketching the gate agent's perfect bun in her peripheral vision. Luna brought up the rear, the purifier cradled like a fragile egg. The jet bridge smelled of jet fuel and possibility. At the aircraft door, a flight attendant with a severe bun and a name tag that read K. Morrison greeted each passenger with the practiced warmth of a game show host. "Welcome aboard, Mr. and Mrs. Goldstein. Safe travels, Dr. Patel." Her smile froze when she reached the girls. For a split second, the mask slipped, and Evelyn's words echoed in Leela's ears. "We paid. We belong." Then the smile was back, brittle as spun sugar. "Boarding passes, please." Morrison's voice was honey over gravel. Leela handed over the trio without flinching. The attendant scanned them, eyes flicking from the barcodes to the girls' faces and back again. "These seats are in first class," she said, as if stating the obvious to someone slow. Leela met her gaze. "Yes, ma'am, that's where we're sitting." Morrison's lips thinned. She waved them through with a flick of her wrist, but her eyes followed them down the aisle like searchlights. The sisters found their row 3A, 3B, 3 Quindo, middle aisle. The seats were wider than their grandmother's sofa, upholstered in buttery leather that sighed when they sat. Leela took the window, already cataloging cloud formations. Lena claimed the middle, pulling out her sketchbook to capture the curve of the armrest. Luna slid into the aisle, the purifier balanced carefully on her lap. For one golden minute, the world was perfect. Then Morrison appeared again, blocking the L like a storm front. She held their boarding passes between two manicured fingers as if they might be contagious. "I'll need to verify these with the gate agent," she said, loud enough for the entire cabin to hear. "There seems to be some irregularity." Leela felt the familiar heat rise in her chest, same heat that had flared when the school principal suggested the girls might be more comfortable in remedial math. She opened her mouth to protest, but Luna's hand found hers under the armrest, squeezing once. Not yet. Lena's pencil had gone still, the page beneath it blank except for a single teardrop that had fallen from her lash. Morrison turned on her heel, the boarding passes disappearing into her pocket like evidence. The cabin door closed with a decisive thunk. Somewhere behind them, a baby cried. Somewhere ahead, the engines began to whine. And in seat 3A, Leela Brooks looked out the window at the tarmac sliding away and whispered the words her grandmother had drilled into them since they could talk. "We paid. We belong." She had no idea that 30,000 feet above the Georgia clay, those words were about to be tested in ways none of them could imagine. The cabin lights dimmed to a soft amber as the plane taxied toward the runway, the way a theater dims before the curtain rises. For Leela, Lena, and Luna Brooks, the stage was set with buttersoft leather, chilled champagne flutes clinking in the galley, and the low murmur of privilege that had never before included them. Seat 3A smelled faintly of cedar and money. 3B offered a cashmere blanket folded with military precision. 3C had a control panel that looked like the cockpit of a spaceship. Luna's fingers traced the button seat recline, lumbar support, reading lither eyes wide behind smudged glasses. "It's like a throne," she whispered. Lena was already sketching the overhead bin's curved seam, her pencil whispering across the page like a secret. Leela pressed her forehead to the cool window, watching the ground crew wave glowing batons. For one suspended moment, the world was exactly as their grandmother had promised, a place where they belonged simply because they had paid. Then Catherine Morrison returned. She moved down the aisle with the deliberate grace of a predator who knows the herd is watching. Her uniform was immaculate tenavy skirt pressed to a knife edge, white blouse starched until it could stand on its own. Silver wings pinned above her heart like a medal for 20 years of unchallenged authority. Her hair was pulled back so tightly it seemed to stretch the skin across her cheekbones. She stopped at Route 3 and planted herself like a border checkpoint. "Boarding passes," she said again, though she still held them. Her voice carried the weight of a gavel and identification. "All three of you." Leela's hand went to the inner pocket of her blazer, fingers brushing the folded $100 bill Evelyn had tucked there. She produced 3 student ads laminated, slightly bent at the corners, the photos taken last year when their braids were shorter and their smiles less practiced. Morrison took them without thanks, holding each up to the light as if searching for watermarks on a counterfeit bill. She flipped them over, checked the expiration dates, compared the faces to the girls in front of her with the slow scrutiny of a customs agent who has all day. "These say you're 15, she said, as if 15 were a crime. "Unaccompanied minors in first class require special documentation. Do you have a letter from a parent or guardian?" Leela's voice was steady, the product of years spent translating for her sisters in parent-teacher conferences and emergency room waiting areas. "Our grandmother purchased the tickets. She's our legal guardian. We have her contact information, the competition invitation, and the purchase confirmation." Morrison's eyebrow arched. "Grandmother." She repeated the word the way one might say counterfeit. "And where is she now?" "Seeing us off at the gate," Lena offered, her voice small. She had stopped sketching. The page beneath her pencil was blank except for a single, trembling line. Morrison ignored her. I'll need to see the original receipt and the competition letter and proof of guardianship. Each demand landed like a stone in still water, rippling outward until the entire cabin was watching. A businessman in D lowered his laptop. An elderly woman in for F craned her neck. Even the toddler to Rose's back stopped fussing to stare. Luna's hands tightened around the water purifier in her lap. The prototype was her security blanket, her proof that she was more than the shy girl who stuttered when called on in class. She opened her mouth to explain it's solar-powered. It uses graphene oxide membranes. It can filter giardia in 90 seconds, but Morrison's gaze flicked to the device and narrowed. "What is that?" she asked, as if Luna might be smuggling contraband. "It's our project," Luna whispered, "for the STEM Summit. It purifies water." Morrison's lips curled in quite a smile, not quite a sneer. "Children don't bring science projects to first class. They bring coloring books." She turned to Leela. "I'll hold on to these until we verify with the gate agent. Remain in your seats." She walked away, boarding passes and disappearing into her pocket like evidence in a trial that had already been decided. The sisters sat in stunned silence, the cashmere blanket suddenly feeling like a shroud. Across the aisle, a boy about 12 watched with open curiosity. Noah Kleinlila had overheard his name when Morrison greeted him with the warmth she reserved for passengers who matched her expectations. Noah wore a private school blazer and a NASA t-shirt, his backpack emblazoned with the logo of the same STEM Summit. He was traveling alone to present a drone navigation algorithm, and Morrison had personally stowed his luggage, offered him a pre-departure Sprite, and called him young man with the pride of a favorite aunt. Now he stared at the Brooks sisters, his Sprite untouched as if trying to solve a puzzle with missing pieces. Lena leaned toward Leela. "Did we do something wrong?" "No," Leela said, though her voice cracked on the word. She reached for her phone. Evelyn had insisted they carry the ancient flip phone for emergencies, but the screen showed nitrogen monoxide signal. The plane was still at the gate, but the Wi-Fi required a credit card she didn't have. Luna's fingers worried the edge of the purifier. "Maybe we should move to economy. There are empty seats in the back." Leela's answer was immediate. "Grandma paid for these seats. She worked 3 jobs. We're not moving," but even as she said it, she felt the weight of every eye in the cabin. The businessman in D had reopened his laptop but wasn't typing. The elderly woman in for F whispered to her husband something about runaways. Noah's gaze darted between the sisters and the galley, where Morrison was now speaking in low tones to Diego Alvarez. The younger flight attendant, Diego's face was unreadable, but his shoulders were tense. Morrison returned with a tablet, her expression triumphant. "There's been a system error," she announced, loud enough for the entire cabin to hear. "First class is oversold. You'll need to relocate to economy." Leela's heart stuttered. "There are empty seats right there." She pointed to row 5, 3 vacant spots directly behind Noah. "Those are reserved," Morrison said, as if the seats had been promised to royalty. "Gather your belongings now." Luna's voice was barely a breath, but the competition starts tomorrow. "We need to rest." Morrison's smile was thin. "Children don't need first-class rest. They need supervision." The word children landed like a slap. Lena's eyes filled with tears she refused to let fall. Leela stood, her blazer suddenly too tight. "We have documentation." "You saw it." "I saw what you claim is documentation." Morrison's voice dripped with skepticism. "Until it's verified, you're unconfirmed passengers." "Move." Noah finally spoke, his voice cracking with puberty and nerves. "Excuse me, ma'am. I think there's been a mistake. They're with the STEM Summit." "Same as me." Morrison's head snapped toward him. "This doesn't concern you, young man," but her tone softened, the way it had when she'd offered him the Sprite. "Stay in your seat." Noah's face flushed. He opened his mouth, then closed it. The moment passed, and with it, the last shred of hope that an adult might intervene. Diego appeared at Morrison's elbow, pushing the beverage cart. He was 24, with kind eyes and a name tag that read D. Alvarez. Pre-departure drinks he offered, his voice neutral. He started with Rao 1 orange juice for the anniversary couple, black coffee for the businessman. When he reached row 3, Morrison stepped in front of the cart. "No service for unverified passengers," she said, loud enough for the entire cabin to hear. Diego hesitated, his hand hovering over a bottle of water. Luna's lips were dry. She hadn't drunk since the airport fountain. Lena's pencil had snapped in her fist. Diego's eyes met Leela's for a fraction of a second. In that glance, she saw something Cognian, maybe, or shame. Then Morrison's hand closed over his wrist. "I said no service." The cart moved on. Row forgot sparkling water. Row 5 Anoa's row got apple juice. Row 3 got nothing. Lena's tears finally fell, silent and hot. She opened her sketchbook and drew a single drop of water, then another, until the page was a storm. Luna stared at the purifier in her lap, its solar panel dark and useless. Leela sat rigid, her hands clenched so tightly her nails left crescents in her palms. In the galley, Morrison spoke into her radio. "Gate agent, this is Morrison on Flight 319. I have 3 unaccompanied minors in first class with questionable tickets. Need immediate verification." The cabin door was still open, the jet bridge a lifeline to the world where their grandmother waited. But the plane was moving now, inching toward the runway, and with every foot of tarmac, the distance between the sisters and safety grew. Leela looked out the window and saw the control tower blink red, then green. The engines roared, the plane lifted, and with it, the last chance to turn back. 30,000 feet above the Georgia clay, the Brooks sisters were airborned utterly alone. Part 3, the first refusal of water, 1,750 words. The plane leveled at cruising altitude with a gentle shudder, the seatbelt sign chiming off like a starting gun. Outside Leela's window, the Georgia red clay gave way to cotton boll clouds, but inside row 3, the air was thick with something heavier than humidity. The cashmere blankets lay folded and untouched. The sisters sat upright as if the seats might eject them at any moment. Morrison had disappeared into the forward galley, her radio crackling with terse updates that carried just far enough for the first-class cabin to hear, still awaiting confirmation, possible fraud. Minors unaccompanied. Each word was a pebble dropped into the silence, rippling outward until every passenger was pretending not to listen while listening harder. Diego Alvarez pushed the beverage cart down the aisle again, this time with the full pre-flight service, crystal glasses of orange juice garnished with mint, chilled bottles of San Pellegrino, tiny porcelain cups of espresso that steamed like miniature volcanoes. He moved with the practiced ease of someone who had memorized the choreography of Privilege: bend, pour, smile, move on. Row 1, the anniversary couple accepted mimosas with murmured thanks. Row 2, the tech bro in the disrupt hoodie requested oat milk latte, extra foam, and got it without a blink. Row 4, Mrs. Helen Whitaker, 82 years old and traveling with a walker folded like origami, asked for just a splash of water. "Dear, my pills." Diego produced a glass bottle, condensation beating on the label, and twisted the cap with a soft hiss. When he reached row 3, the cart slowed. Leela's mouth was cotton, Lena's lips were cracked from nervous biting. Luna's glasses had slipped down her nose, fogged by the effort of not crying. Diego's eyes flicked to Morrison, who stood at the galley curtain like a sentry. Her arms were crossed, her chin tilted in a silent command. "No." Diego hesitated, the cart's wheels squeaked. In that half-second, Luna's voicemail, cracked, desperate, broke the spell. "Excuse me, could we have some water, please?" It was the first time she had spoken above a whisper since boarding. The question hung in the recycled air like a plea for mercy. Diego's hand moved instinctively toward the shelf of bottled water. Fiji, Evang, Voston froze as Morrison stepped forward. "Service is for confirmed passengers only," she announced, her voice pitched to carry to the back of the cabin. "Until your situation is verified, you'll receive nothing." Diego's jaw tightened. He was 24, 2 years on the job, still paying off student loans from community college. His mother cleaned houses in Miami. His father drove a Lyft. He knew what it felt like to be told you didn't belong. But Morrison was senior crew, and seniority was currency. He started to move the cart past. Leela stood halfway, her blazer straining at the shoulders. "We've been sitting here for 40 minutes. We have boarding passes. We're thirsty." Morrison's smile was a blade. Thirst is not a confirmed status. The words landed like a slap. Lena's pencil snapped in her fist, the graphite tip skittering across the tray table. Luna shrank into her seat, the purifier clutched to her chest like a shield. Diego's hand twitched toward the water again. 3 bottles, small ones, the kind they gave to children. He could do it in one motion, slip them onto the tray tables before Morrison noticed. He didn't. The cart rolled on. Row 5, Noah Klein, the drone kid, accepted a Coke with a polite thank you. Row 6, a venture capitalist in a Patagonia vest asked for ginger ale, no ice. Row 3, nothing. The sisters watched the cart disappear behind the curtain, the clink of glassware fading like a taunt. In the silence that followed, Mrs. Helen Whitaker turned in her seat. Her walker was stowed, but her voice carried the authority of someone who had survived the Depression and 3 husbands. "Young man," she called to Diego, loud enough for the entire cabin to hear. "Why didn't those girls get water?" Diego froze. Morrison reappeared instantly, her smile brittle. "Mrs. Whitaker, it's an airline policy matter. Please enjoy your flight." "Policy." Helen's eyes narrowed. "I've flown first class since before you were born, and I've never seen children denied water. What's their crime being black?" The cabin gasped, the tech bro choked on his latte. Noah's Coke fizzed over the rim of his cup. Morrison's face flushed the color of airline Merlot. "Ma'am, this is a security concern," she said through clenched teeth. "I'd appreciate it if you'd let the crew handle it." Helen wasn't finished. "Security. They're 15. They're wearing blazers. One of them's got a science project." "You're telling me they're a threat?" Morrison's radio crackled again. She stepped into the galley, but not before shooting Helen a look that could freeze lava. Diego followed, his shoulders hunched. The curtain fell shut behind them. Lena opened her sketchbook with trembling fingers. The page was already wet ears or spilled water. She wasn't sure. She drew a single drop, then another, until the paper was a storm of blue and gray. "Water is life," she wrote beneath it in tiny, angry letters. "Why won't they let us live?" Luna's prototype purifier sat dark on her lap. She had spent 6 months perfecting graphene oxide membranes grown in a makeshift lab in their apartment's bathtub, solar panels scavenged from broken garden lights, a microcontroller programmed on a library computer. It could filter 99.99% of pathogens in 90 seconds. She had tested it on the Chattahoochee River, on puddle water from the parking lot, on the murky tap in their building that sometimes ran brown. It worked. And now she couldn't even get a bottle of water to drink. Leela pulled out the flip phone again, still no signal. She typed a message anyway, Grams, "They won't give us water. We're scared," and saved it to send when they landed. She imagined Evelyn at home, pacing the 2 rooms, the Maxwell house can empty on the counter, her rosary clicking like whirring beads. In the galley, Diego's voice was low but urgent. "Kate, they're kids, they asked for water. It's not alcohol, it's not a hot towel, it's water." Morrison's reply was ice. "You don't question me, Alvarez, you follow orders. Those tickets are fraudulent, I've seen it before, stealing credit cards, fake IDs. They don't belong here, they have IDs, they have a letter from the STEM Summit. I saw it, you saw what they wanted you to see." Morrison's voice dropped to a hiss. "I've been flying 20 years, I know trouble when I see it. And those girls, trouble." Diego's hands clenched on the cart handle. He thought of his little sister, Sophia, who was 15 and dreamed of being an aerospace engineer. He thought of the way passengers sometimes asked him to speak slower, assuming his accent meant stupidity. He thought of the $100 tip a drunk businessman had once pressed into his palm with a wink and a slur. He opened his mouth to argue. The curtain parted. Morrison emerged, her face composed, her eyes scanning the cabin like a hawk. She stopped at row 3 and placed 3 boarding passes on the tray tables with deliberate slowness. "Still unverified," she said. "No service, no movement. No exceptions." Leela's voice was steel. "We're not moving." Morrison leaned in, close enough that Leela could smell her peppermint gum. "You will if I say you will." She turned to the cabin at large. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing a slight delay in beverage service due to a ticketing irregularity. We appreciate your patience." The lie was so smooth it almost sounded true. The tech bro went back to his laptop. The venture capitalist checked his watch. Noah stared at his Coke, the fizz long gone flat. Luna's whisper was barely audible. "I'm so thirsty my tongue feels like sandpaper." Lena closed her sketchbook. The storm of water drops had become a river, and in the center, 3 tiny figures stood on a sinking raft. She tore the page out, folded it into a paper boat, and set it on the tray table. It listed to one side, then capsized. Diego reappeared, alone this time. He moved quickly, silently, slipping 3 small bottles of water onto the tray tables in one fluid motion, Evian, still cold from the cart. "I'm sorry," he whispered, so low only the sisters heard. "I'm so sorry." For one heartbeat, hope flared. Luna's fingers closed around the bottle. Lena's tears stopped mid-fall. Leela's shoulders unclenched. Then Morrison was there, faster than seemed possible. She snatched the bottles away with a violence that made Luna flinch. "Alvarez," she barked, "what did you just do?" Diego froze. "They're children. They asked for water." It's insubordination. Morrison's voice could have cut glass. "You provided service to unverified passengers in direct violation of my orders. This goes in your file." The cabin watched in stunned silence as Morrison held the 3 bottles aloft like evidence. Water sloshed inside, mocking them. She placed them back on the cart, out of reach. "They'll get refreshments once their situation is cleared," she announced. "Until then, no service. Is that understood?" Diego nodded, his face burning. He pushed the cart away, the wheels squeaking like a confession. Leela's fists balled in her lap. She wanted to scream, to demand the captain, to call her grandmother. But she knew in her bones that any outburst would be twisted into proof they were the problem. So she sat, silent and furious, while Lena's paper boat sank and Luna's prototype purifier gathered dust. Outside, the clouds parted to reveal the Chesapeake Bay, glittering like a promise. Inside, the sisters were adrift in a sea of leather and judgment, 30,000 feet above a world that had already decided they didn't belong, and the flight had barely begun. The seatbelt sign flickered back on with a soft ding, though the plane hadn't moved in 20 minutes. Outside, the Virginia sky was the color of a fresh bruise, but inside first class, the storm was entirely man-made. Catherine Morrison stood at the front of the cabin, one hand on the PA microphone, the other clutching a tablet like a verdict. The engines idled, a low growl that vibrated through the floor and into the sisters' bones. Every passenger pretended to be absorbed in something else, laptops, magazines, the in-flight menu, but their eyes kept sliding toward row 3, where Leela, Lena, and Luna sat like defendants on trial. Morrison tapped the microphone. The feedback squeal made Noah Klein flinch in 5C. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice syrupy with false regret due to a ticketing irregularity in seats 3A, 3B, and 3C. "We are unable to proceed with departure until the matter is resolved. We apologize for the inconvenience and appreciate your patience." The word inconvenience landed like a punch. Leela's nails dug crescents into her palms. Lena's sketchbook lay open to a new page, a single, jagged line that looked like a scream. Luna's prototype purifier was zipped into her backpack now, hidden as if it might be confiscated next. In the galley, Diego Alvarez's hands shook as he restocked the cart. He had just been reprimanded in front of the entire cabin, his first write-up in 2 years. His supervisor's email was already drafted in his head: insubordination, failure to follow senior crew direction. He thought of his mother's face when he told her he might lose his job. He thought of Sophia, who wanted to be an astronaut. He thought of the 3 girls in row 3, their lips cracked, their eyes too old for 15. Morrison returned to the aisle, tablet glowing. "I've spoken with the gate agent," she announced to the sisters, though her voice carried to the back of the cabin. "Your tickets were purchased with a prepaid card, no name attached. That's highly irregular for first class." Leela's voice was steady, but her hands trembled. "Our grandmother bought them. She has the receipt. You can call her." "I don't call passengers grandmothers," Morrison said. "I call security." She lifted her radio. "Ground operations, this is Morrison on Flight 319, requesting immediate police presence for 3 unaccompanied minors with questionable tickets. Possible fraud," the cabin erupted in whispers. The tech bro in 2D finally closed his laptop. Mrs. Helen Whitaker gripped her walker's handle so tightly her knuckles went white. Noah's Coke was warm and flat. He hadn't taken a sip since the water incident. Lena's tears started again, silent and unstoppable. She opened her sketchbook and drew Morrison's face: sharp cheekbones, thin lips, eyes like bullet holes. Underneath, she wrote in tiny letters, "She hates us because we're here." Luna's whisper was barely audible. "They're going to take us off the plane." Leela squeezed her hand. "They can try." The jet bridge reattached with a metallic thunk. 2 officers stepped aboard. Officer Malik Carter, mid-30s, black, his uniform crisp but his eyes tired. And Officer Daniels, white, younger, chewing gum like it was a chore. Malik's gaze swept the cabin, landing on the sisters. He saw the blazers, the matching backpacks, the purifier peeking from Luna's bag. He saw Morrison's smug satisfaction. He knew exactly what he was looking at. "Ma'am," Malik said to Morrison, "step aside, please." Morrison launched in before he could blink. "These girls claim their grandmother bought first-class tickets with a prepaid card, no adult present. They have a science project." She gestured at the purifier as if it were a bomb, "and their story about a competition sounds fabricated. I've been flying 20 years. I know fraud when I see it." Malik's jaw tightened. "May I see the documentation?" Leela's hands didn't shake this time. She pulled out the folder Evelyn had packed with military precision: boarding passes, student IDs, the STEM Summit invitation on heavy cream stock with a gold seal, the purchase confirmation email printed in color, Evelyn's ID photocopy, even the prepaid card receipt with the last 4 digits matching the ticket. Malik examined each item slowly, actually reading gum like Morrison, who had skimmed and dismissed. Daniels chewed louder. "Looks legit to me." Malik nodded. "Everything checks out?" "Tickets valid, IDs match, competition letter official." "These young ladies are confirmed passengers." Morrison's face flushed. "Officer, with respect, children from certain demographics don't typically access first class. It's a liability issue." The cabin gasped. Mrs. Helen's walker clattered as she stood. "Did she just say what I think she said?" Malik's voice was calm but lethal. "Ma'am, what you just described is racial profiling. Federal violation. These girls have done nothing wrong. The only issue I see is a flight attendant harassing minors based on race." Morrison doubled down. "I never mentioned race. I'm following protocol. There are other unaccompanied minors on this flight, but only these 3 are a problem." Mr. Ethan Park, the tech lawyer into D, finally stood. "Officer, I'm an attorney. I've witnessed blatant discrimination. This attendant has denied service, confiscated water, and publicly humiliated these children without cause. I'll testify." A young Latina mother in Foray, traveling with a sleeping baby, spoke up. "She welcomed me with extra diapers and a smile. But these girls, she treated them like criminals. We all know why." More voices joined. "Disgraceful." I've been recording those poor kids. Zoe Martinez, 16, in 2F, had been live streaming since the water incident. Her phone was propped against her tray table, the chat exploding, first-class racism trending with 50,000 views and climbing. She zoomed in on Morrison's face, then panned to the sisters. "You're seeing this," she whispered to her 100,000 followers. "This is what systemic looks like," Morrison's radio crackled. The captain's voice, "Morrison, what the hell is going on up there?" Before she could answer, Malik stepped between her and the sisters. "Young ladies, you're staying in your seats, full service. If anyone harasses you again, you call me directly." He handed Leela his card. Morrison's eyes filled with tears, real ones or crocodile, it was hard to tell. "I have a family, 20 years. This is unfair." Malik's response was ice. "So do they." Diego stepped forward, his voice shaking but clear. "Airline policy allows unaccompanied minors aged 5 to 17 in any cabin with documentation. These girls meet every requirement. I tried to give them water. Basic decency." "That's not a crime." The cabin erupted in applause. Mrs. Helen started it, her frail hands clapping like gunshots. The Latina mother joined. Even Noah, cheeks flaming, clapped once, then harder. Morrison's face crumpled. She opened her mouth, but no words came. The tablet slipped from her hand, clattering to the floor. Then, from the back of first-class seat 7, a woman stood. Dr. Amara Hayes was 52, black, and wore authority like a second skin. Her navy suit was tailored, her silver hair twisted into a perfect chignon, her airline badge gleaming. SVP Customer Experience. She had boarded in Atlanta under the stealth audit program executives flying incognito to root out bias. She had seen everything, the boarding pass scrutiny, the water confiscation, the PA announcements, the racial dog whistle. Her phone was full of video, time-stamped and damning. She walked forward slowly, every step deliberate. The cabin fell silent. Morrison noticed her approaching and opened her mouth and saw the badge. Her knees buckled. Dr. Hayes stopped in front of row 3. Her voice was quiet but carried to the cockpit. "My name is Dr. Amara Hayes. I've documented 47 minutes of discriminatory conduct. Catherine Morrison, you're terminated. Effective immediately." Morrison's sob was audible. "Please, my son's autistic. I need this job." Dr. Hayes's eyes never left the sisters. "You needed to treat these children with dignity. You chose not to." She turned to Malik. "Officer, please escort Ms. Morrison off the aircraft." Malik nodded. Daniels took Morrison's arm. She didn't resist, just walked the aisle like a ghost, passengers parting like the Red Sea. The jet bridge swallowed her whole. Dr. Hayes knelt to the sisters' level. "I'm so sorry. You did nothing wrong. You belong here." Luna's voice was a whisper. "Can we have water now?" Dr. Hayes' smile droll, warm, maternal. "You can have anything you want." She stood and addressed the cabin. "This flight will depart in 10 minutes. These young ladies will receive full first-class service starting now. Anyone who disagrees can deplane with Ms. Morrison." No one moved. Diego returned with a tray, 3 crystal glasses of ice water with lemon, 3 warm cookies, 3 first-class meal menus. He placed them gently, his eyes wet. "I'm sorry I didn't do more." Leela took the water first. She drank half in one gulp, then passed it to Lena, then Luna. The cabin watched in silence as the sisters drank, the simple act of hydration suddenly sacred. Zoe's livestream hit 100,000 viewers. The chat scrolled, "Justice, they deserve this. Fly high, sisters." The engines revved, the plane taxied. The sisters buckled in, water bottles clutched like trophies. As the runway fell away, Leela looked out the window and saw the control tower blink green. She whispered to her sisters, "We paid. We belong," and for the first time since boarding, she believed it. The aircraft door sealed with a pneumatic sigh and the cabin lights brightened to full takeoff glow. Outside, the runway lights streaked past like comets. Inside, the silence was so complete that the click of seatbelts sounded like gunfire. Dr. Amara Hayes remained standing in the aisle, her navy suit cutting a sharp line against the beige bulkhead. The badge at her lapel's customer experience is no longer hidden beneath a scarf, it glinted like a sheriff's star. Every eye in first class was on her, but her gaze was fixed on the three girls in row 3. Leela's water glass trembled in her hand. Lena's sketchbook lay open to a half-finished portrait of Morrison's downfall, mouth open in mid-sob, eyes wide with shock. Luna's prototype purifier sat on her tray table, its solar panel catching the cabin lights like a tiny sun. Dr. Hayes took one step, then another, until she stood directly in front of them. She did not kneel this time. She did not need to. Authority radiated from her like heat. "My name is Dr. Amara Hayes," she repeated, softer now, but the words carried to the cockpit. "I boarded this flight under our stealth audit program. For the past year, we've had complaints, repeated complaints about discriminatory treatment on this route. I came to see it for myself. I have 47 minutes of high-definition video, audio, and metadata. Every word, every gesture, every violation of federal law and company policy is documented." She held up her phone. The screen showed a frozen frame, Morrison snatching water bottles from the girls' trays, her face twisted in triumph. The timestamp read 11:42 a.m. The cabin gasped. Morrison, still flanked by officers Malik Carter and Daniels at the jet bridge door, went the color of spoiled milk. "You can't do this," she stammered. "I have rights. I have 20 years. You have a termination letter." Dr. Hayes cut in. "Effective the moment you called 3 black teenagers suspicious minors on an open channel. Effective the moment you denied them water. Effective the moment you said, and I quote, 'Children from certain demographics don't typically access first class.'" She turned the phone so the entire cabin could see the transcript scrolling in real time. The words glowed red. 11 hours 39 minutes and 12 seconds certain demographics, 11 hours 41 minutes and 5 seconds unverified passengers, 11 hours 43 minutes and 27 seconds no service until verified. Mrs. Helen Whitaker let out a low whistle. "Lord have mercy." Dr. Hayes faced Morrison fully. "You have a son with autism. I read your personnel file before boarding. I know you've requested schedule accommodations. I know you've been written up twice before for attitude. I know you've been warned. None of that excuses terrorizing children." Morrison's knees buckled. Daniels caught her elbow. "Please," she whispered, "my family, your family will be fine," Dr. Hayes said. "These girls lost their parents 7 years ago. Their grandmother cleaned offices at 3 a.m. to buy these tickets. You turned her sacrifice into trauma. That ends now." She turned to the sisters. "Leela. Lena. Luna, may I use your names?" Leela nodded, throat tight. Dr. Hayes addressed the cabin. "These young women are finalists in the National STEM Innovators Summit. Their project, a solar-powered nanofiltration system, can provide clean water to 200 people per unit. They beat out 3,000 entries. They are the future." And Catherine Morrison tried to erase them because of the color of their skin. Zoe Martinez's livestream hit 250,000 viewers. The chat was a blur. "Fire her. Protect them, Brooke sisters." Dr. Hayes knelt then. "I level with Luna. Tell me about your purifier." Luna's voice was a thread. "It uses graphene oxide membranes. Grown in our bathtub with a Raspberry Pi controller. It filters 99.99% of pathogens in 90 seconds. We tested it on river water, rainwater, even the tap in our building when it runs brown." Dr. Hayes's eyes shone. "You grew graphene in a bathtub," Luna nodded. "With a hot plate and lemon juice, it's cheaper than lab grade." A ripple of laughter. Jen Warm swept the cabin. The tech bro entity actually clapped. Noah Klein's mouth hung open. Dr. Hayes stood. "Captain Reynolds, this is Hayes. Clear us for departure. These passengers are confirmed VIP status. Full service resumes immediately." The intercom crackled. "Copy that, Dr. Hayes." Welcome aboard. Diego Alvarez appeared as if summoned, pushing a silver cart laden with miracles, warm face towels scented with eucalyptus, chilled cucumber water, and crystal flutes. A tray of macarons in pastel colors. He served the sisters first, his hands steady now. Ladies, your meal choice: filet mignon, lobster risotto, or the vegan harvest bowl. And he produced 3 small boxes tied with gold ribbon. Complimentary noise-canceling headphones, courtesy of the airline. Lena's eyes filled again, but this time with wonder. She opened her box to find headphones in rose gold, her favorite color. Luna's were midnight blue. Leila's were silver, like her mother's necklace. Dr. Hayes took the empty seat across the L3D. Mr. Park's seat. He had willingly moved to coach to make room. I'm sitting with you for the flight, she told the girls. Any questions, any needs, you ask me. The plane lifted off. The G-force pressed them into their seats, but for the first time it felt like ascent rather than escape. At cruising altitude, Dr. Hayes pulled out her laptop. I want to show you something. She opened a secure portal, the airline's internal incident report system. She typed rapidly, attaching the video files, the transcript, witness statements from Malik, Diego, Mrs. Whitaker, Mr. Park, and Zoe. The subject line, termination K. Morrison racial profiling of minors. She hit send. The screen flashed green, submitted to HR, legal, FAA. Morrison was gone, but the aftermath had only begun. Dr. Hayes turned to Leila. Your grandmother Brookshe's on my call list, may I? Leila handed over the flip phone. Dr. Hayes dialed from her own satellite line. The call connected on the second ring. Evelyn, this is Dr. Amara Hayes, SVP with Horizon Airlines. Your granddaughters are safe. They're extraordinary. And the woman who hurt them is gone. On the tiny speaker, Evelyn's sob was audible throughout the cabin. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you. Dr. Hayes's voice softened. Mrs. Brooks, we're upgrading your return tickets to first class for a view, and we're providing vouchers for life. You'll never pay for a flight again. I'd like to invite you to headquarters next week for a formal apology. On camera, the world needs to see this. Evelyn's voice cracked. I just wanted them to feel special once. They will, Dr. Hayes promised. Starting now. She ended the call and opened a new window, the airline's press portal. She drafted a statement. For immediate release, Horizon Airlines has terminated a flight attendant for racial profiling after an incident involving 3 minor passengers traveling to the National STEM Innovators Summit. The airline is implementing mandatory body cameras, quarterly bias training, and a $1 million scholarship fund in honor of the Brooks sisters. Full video will be released to promote transparency. She hit send. Within minutes, Zoe's livestream exploded. They did IT, scholarship fund, body cams, Brooks sisters. Mr. Park leaned over from his new seat in coach classes. He had insisted on switching. Dr. Hayes, I fund STEM initiatives. I'd like to match that $1 million. And mentor the girls personally. Dr. Hayes smiled. Done. The meal service began. Diego presented the sisters with filet mignon, the lobster risotto, and the vegan bolo 3. In case you want to try everything, he added a bottle of sparkling cider and 3 slices of chocolate cake with gold leaf. Luna stared at the cake as if it were a spaceship. Mrs. Helen Whitaker hobbled forward with her walker, a small velvet pouch in her hand. My husband and I flew first class for 50 years. We never had children. But if we had, she pressed the pouch into Leila's hand. Inside, a gold locket with a photo of a young black couple, Helen and her husband, on their wedding day. For your grandmother. Tell her some of us old white folks are on your side. Lena's tears fell onto the cake. She didn't bother wiping them away. Noah Klein approached shyly, holding his drone prototype, a sleek carbon fiber quadcopter. I'm sorry I didn't speak up sooner. I was scared, but your purifier. It's genius. Can we collaborate at the summit? Luna's smile was small but real. We'd like that. The cabin transformed. Passengers lined up not to complain, but to apologize, to offer business cards, to share their own stories of discrimination. A flight attendant from economy peeked in, eyes wide. "Is it true?" "They fired her on the spot." Diego nodded. "Doctor Hayes doesn't play." At 30,000 feet, the sisters ate cake and drank cider and listened to Dr. Hayes explain the stealth audit program, executives flying incognito, recording bias, terminating on the spot. "We've done it 6 times this year," she said. "You're the first miners. The first to go viral, the first to force systemic change." Leela's voice was steady now. "What happens to Morrison?" Dr. Hayes's eyes hardened. "She be blacklisted from every major airline. FAA investigation, civil rights lawsuit, your grandmother's choice. And she watch you win that summit on every screen in America." The plane began its descent into Reagan National. The cabin lights dimmed to landing glow. Dr. Hayes fastened the sisters' seatbelts herself. "When we land, there will be media," Zoe's stream hit to million. "But you don't have to speak unless you want to." "I'll handle it," Luna whispered. "We want to speak about the purifier. And about what happened." Dr. Hayes nodded. "Then we'll give you the stage." The wheels touched down with a gentle thud. The cabin erupted in applause, spontaneous, thunderous, led by Mrs. Helen and her walker. Passengers stood, cheering, as the sisters gathered their backpacks. Diego opened the overhead bin, handing down the purifier like it was the Stanley Cup. At the gate, a Horizon Airlines ground crew waited with a red carpet, literal red carpet, rolled from the jet bridge to the terminal. A banner read, "Welcome, Brooks Sisters, future first, Dr. Hayes." Walked them down the carpet, cameras flashing. Zoe Martinez live streamed from the front, tears streaming. "Yo, this is history." Leela, Lena, and Luna stepped into the terminal, the purifier gleaming under the lights. Behind them, the plane taxied away, its first-class cabin forever changed. And in seat 3A, a single drop of water left from Luna's glass caught the light like a diamond. The fight was over. The future had just begun. The seatbelt sign chimed off for the final time as Flight 319 cruised at 34,000 feet, somewhere over the Mason-Dixon line that had never meant much to the Brooks sisters until today. The cabin lights softened to a golden dusk, and the recycled air smelled faintly of roasted garlic and possibility. Dr. Amara Hayes sat across the aisle in 3D, her laptop closed, her phone on airplane mode for the first time in hours. She watched the girls with the quiet pride of a coach who had just seen her team score the winning goal in overtime. Leela's filet mignon was half-eaten, the lobster risotto sampled, the vegan bowl untouched, had decided to save it for Evelyn. Lena's rose gold headphones were around her neck, the sketchbook open to a new page. Dr. Hayes kneeling with the sisters, Morrison's silhouette fading into the jet bridge like a ghost. Luna's midnight blue headphones were on, but she wasn't listening to music. She was running simulations on her tablet, the purifier's solar panel charging under the reading light. The cake was gonna 3 empty plates, gold leaf smudged on their fingers like war paint. Diego Alvarez appeared with a silver tray, warm chocolate chip cookies wrapped in linen napkins, still gooey in the center. "From the captain," he said, placing one in front of each sister. "He says future scientists need brain fuel." The cookies were shaped like airplanes, the wings dusted with powdered sugar. Luna bit off a wing and smiled for the first time since boarding. Dr. Hayes leaned over. "May I see the purifier in action?" Luna hesitated, then unzipped her backpack. The device was no bigger than a thermos, matte black with a solar panel on top and a digital display that read 0.0 ppm. She unscrewed the cap, revealing a clear chamber and a graphene oxide membrane that shimmered like spider silk. "It needs dirty water to demonstrate," she said shyly. Diego was already back with a glass of tap water from the Galley Murky with a faint brown tint from the aircraft's tanks. "Will this do?" Luna nodded. She poured the water into the purifier's intake. The solar panel glowed softly. 90 seconds later, the display flashed green, 0.0 ppm safe. She poured 0.0 ppm safe. She poured the output into a crystal flute. It was crystal clear, odorless. She offered it to Dr. Hayes. Dr. Hayes drank without hesitation. Tastes like mountain spring. You grew this membrane in a bathtub. With lemon juice and a hot plate, Luna confirmed, graphene oxide is hydrophilic. It traps contaminants but lets water through. We scaled it with 3D printed channels. Dr. Hayes's eyes shone. You're going to win. The cabin had transformed into a floating salon, Mrs. Helen Whitaker hobbled forward again, this time with a small tin of homemade pecan sandies. My mother's recipe, she said, pressing the tin into Lena's hands, for your grandmother. Tell her Helen from Savannah says some of us old white ladies are rooting for y'all. Lena's fingers trembled as she opened the tin. The cookies smelled like childhood and safety. She took one, broke it in half, and gave the other half to Leela. They ate in silence, the crunch loud in the quiet cabin. Noah Klein approached, his drone prototype tucked under his arm like a football. I'm sorry I froze, he said again. My dad says speaking up is hard when adults are scary. But your Purifirit's better than my drone. Can we trade ideas at the summit? Luna's shyness cracked. Your drone has LiDAR mapping. We could integrate it with our water sensors. Real-time contamination detection from the air. Noah's eyes lit up. Deal. Zoe Martinez had moved to the jump seat near the galley, her phone still live but angled away from the sisters' faces. To million viewers, she whispered to Diego. They want the girls to speak, but only if they're ready, Dr. Hayes overheard. After dinner, we'll do a controlled interview. Horizon's PR team is prepping a press conference at Reagan, but the girls get final say. Dinner was a blur of silver cloches and attentive service. Diego presented the sisters with kids' meal options for fun mini sliders, mac and cheese shaped like stars, fruit skewers arranged like rainbows. They ate everything. Leela saved the rainbow skewers for Evelyn. Lena drew the fruit on a napkin, labeling each color with a feeling. Red equals anger, orange equals fear, yellow equals hope. Mid-flight, Dr. Hayes opened the satellite phone again. Evelyn, it's Amara, the girls want to talk. She passed the phone to Leela first. Grams, Leela's voice cracked. We're okay. They gave us cake and water, and they fired her. On the plane, Evelyn's sob was a hymn. My babies. My brilliant babies. Lena took the phone next. I drew everything. I'll show you when we land. Luna laughed. The purifier worked, Dr. Hayes drank the water. She said it tastes like mountains. Evelyn's laughter was wet. Tell Dr. Hayes I'm bringing my good wig to headquarters. And my church hat. Dr. Hayes took the phone back. Mrs. Brooks, we're arranging a car service to your hotel. And a stylist for the girls tomorrow on us. They'll look like the stars they are. She ended the call and opened her laptop again. This time, she showed the sisters the scholarship fund announcement, $1 million matched by Mr. Park, $500,000 from Horizon, to $150,000 from Zoe's GoFund that launched mid-flight. Total, $1.75 million for underrepresented STEM students, named the Brooks Sisters Future Fund. Leela's eyes widened. That's college for all of us, and grad school, Dr. Hayes said. And your purifier, we're fast-tracking a patent filing. Horizon's legal team starts tomorrow. The cabin lights dimmed for the movie service. Diego offered the sisters the first pick. They chose Hidden Figures appropriate, Lena said. The screen lowered, but no one watched. Passengers were too busy approaching with gifts, a venture capitalist's business card with "Call Me" scrawled in Sharpie, a retired engineer's offer to 3D print purifier parts at cost. A flight attendant's whispered apology for every time she looked away. Mrs. Helen fell asleep mid-movie, her head on her husband's shoulder, the pecan tin clutched like a teddy bear. Noah and Luna sat on the floor between rows, sketching drone purifier hybrids on a napkin. Lena drew portraits, Dr. Hayes with a cape, Diego with a halo, Malik Carter with a badge that read Real Hero. At 30,000 feet, the sisters video called Evelyn again, this time on Dr. Hayes' satellite iPad. The screen filled with their grandmother's face, eyes red but shining. Behind her, their tiny apartment was lit with every lamp they owned. The Maxwell house can turned upside down on the table, empty. Finally. "Look," Evelyn said, panning the camera. Their neighbors had taped a banner across the wall. "We love you, Brooks sisters." Mrs. Rodriguez from to be held a sign. "My granddaughter wants to be you." Leela's voice broke. "We're coming home winners." Grams, Evelyn's smile was sunrise. "You already are." The call ended with Dr. Hayes promising to fly Evelyn to DC first class for the summit finals. "You'll sit front row," she said. With a corsage, descent began. The cabin lights brightened. Diego returned with landing cards, immigration forms for international passengers, but for the sisters, he'd printed custom ones. "Welcome to your future." He'd drawn tiny airplanes on each. Dr. Hayes fastened their seat belts again. "When we land, there will be cameras, reporters. Zoe's stream is at 3 million. But you walk at your pace, you speak when you're ready." "I'll be your shield," Luna whispered. "We want to show the purifier on camera so no one else gets treated like this." Dr. Hayes nodded. "Then we'll give you the biggest stage." The wheels touched down at Reagan National with a gentle kiss. The cabin erupted in applause again, louder this time, led by Noah banging his drone on the armrest like a drum. Passengers stood, cheering, as the sisters gathered their things. Diego opened the overhead bin, handing down the purifier like a torch. At the gate, the red carpet waited longer this time, flanked by Horizon ground crew in crisp uniforms. A banner read, "Brooks Sisters First Class Forever." Reporters surged forward, but Dr. Hayes raised a hand. "Press conference in 30 minutes. The girls need to breathe." A black SUV idled at the curb, driver holding a sign, "Brooks." The sisters climbed in, the purifier on Luna's lap, Lena's sketchbook clutched to her chest, Leela's silver necklace catching the airport lights. Dr. Hayes slid in last. As they pulled away, Zoe's final livestream frame froze on the sisters' face, tired, triumphant, 15 years old and already legends. Diego watched from the jet bridge, his write-up forgotten, his heart full. He texted his mother. "I helped save 3 girls today. I'm keeping this job, Mrs." Helen Whitaker waved from the terminal window, her walker steady, her smile wide. "Fly high, babies," she whispered. "The sky's yours now." The SUV merged into DC. Traffic, the Washington Monument glowing in the distance. Leela rolled down the window. The air smelled like rain and possibility. Lena opened her sketchbook to a blank page. She drew the monument, then the purifier, then 3 tiny figures standing on top of the world. Luna plugged the purifier into the car's USB port. The solar panel glowed, 0.0 ppm SAFE. Leela took her sister's hands. "We paid," she said. "We belong," and for the first time in their lives, the world agreed. The Willard Intercontinental's Grand Ballroom had never seen anything like the Brooks sisters. It was 8:03 a.m. on Summit Day 2, and the chandelier's crystal waterfalls frozen mid-casket reflected 1,000 phone screens angled toward the main stage. The National STEM Innovators Summit had sold out months ago, but today every seat was taken, standing room packed with reporters, venture capitalists, and high school students wearing homemade Brooks Sisters t-shirts. Zoe Martinez's livestream hovered at 4.7 million concurrent viewers. The hashtag had trended globally for 18 hours. Horizon Airlines had flown in Evelyn Brooks' first class the night before, church hat, good wig, and Alan. She now sat front row center in a navy suit. Dr. Hayes had overnighted from Nordstrom. A corsage of white roses trembled on her wrist every time she clapped. Backstage, the sisters stood in a triangle of light. Leela wore a charcoal blazer with the Summit logo embroidered in gold thread. Lena's rose gold headphones hung around her neck like a medal. Luna clutched the purifier, its solar panel now upgraded with a horizon blue LED ring. A stylist had braided their hair into identical crown braids threaded with silver ribbon. Leela's idea, "We look like winners before we win." Their presentation slides were loaded on a 75-inch monitor. The title glowing in bold, Aquanova Solar-Powered Nanofiltration for Crisis Communities by Leela, Lena, and Luna Brooks, Atlanta, got Dr. Amara Hayes stood behind them, arms crossed, eyes scanning the wings. "Remember," she whispered, "you're not proving you belong. You're proving the world was wrong to doubt you." Leela nodded. "We've got this." The MC, a NASA astronaut with a voice like warm maple, took the stage. "Our next finalists are redefining access to clean water. Please welcome the Brooks sisters." The ballroom erupted. Evelyn stood, corsage shaking, tears streaming. Zoe's drone camera swooped overhead, Liv feeding to jumbotrons outside where hundreds more watched on the National Mall. The sisters walked out, Lila first, then Lena, then Len. Each step measured, the purifier held high like a torch. The applause didn't stop, it swelled, wave after wave, until the chandeliers seemed to vibrate. Leela reached the podium, the microphone was too tall. A stagehand adjusted it in seconds. She smiled at the practiced smile of Debate Club, but the real one that showed the gap between her front teeth. "Good morning. We're the Brooks sisters, and 2 days ago we were denied water on a flight to this stage." The room went still. Phones lowered, you could hear Evelyn's sharp inhale. Leela continued, "A flight attendant decided we didn't belong in first class because of how we look. She took our water, called security, and tried to move us to the back. But here's what she didn't know. Water is our superpower." She stepped aside. Lena took the clicker, advancing to a slide, a photo of their apartment bathtub, graphene oxide sheets drying on a clothesline made of dental floss. "We grew these membranes with lemon juice and a $12 hot plate," Lena said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "Because when your tap runs brown, you don't wait for permission to fix it." Luna placed the purifier on a glass pedestal center stage. A volunteer poured in a beaker of murky Potomac River water sourced that morning, cloudy with sediment and E. coli. The solar panel glowed. 90 seconds later, the output chamber filled with crystal liquid. The digital display flashed 0.0 ppm SAFE. The room lost its mind. A judged her. Chen, mit Professor leaned forward. "You achieved this with consumer-grade materials," Luna nodded, "and open-source code. Anyone with a 3D printer and sunlight can replicate it." The Q&A was brutal in the best way. A venture capitalist asked about scalability. Leela rattled off numbers. $47 per unit at 10,000 unit production, $12 at scale. A UNICEF rep asked about field testing. Lena projected photos, the purifier in a Kenyan village, children drinking, smiling. A rival Thames private school trio who had smirked at the recycled soda bottle sat silent, their faces pale. Then the twist, the MC returned. "Before final judging, we have a surprise presentation." The lights dimmed. A video began, security cam footage from Flight 319 Morrison snatching water, the PA announcement, Dr. Hayes standing. Then the sisters drinking from crystal flutes, the red carpet at Reagan, Evelyn's corsage. The final frame, the purifier on this very stage, caption, "From denied water to clean water for all." The ballroom stood as one. Evelyn was sobbing openly now. Mrs. Rodriguez from their building live streaming from Atlanta on her ancient flip phone. Zoe's view count hit 6 million. Judging took 30 minutes, eternity compressed into heartbeats. The sisters waited backstage, holding hands. Dr. Hayes brought them cucumber water and champagne flutes. "Whatever happens," she said, "you've already won." The astronaut returned. In third place, Team Quantum from Boston. Polite applause. Second place, Aramap from Seattle, louder. And the grand prize, full scholarships to any university, $100,000 grant, and incubation with NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab goes to, a drumroll that shook the chandeliers. Aquanova the Brooks sisters. The room exploded. Confetti cannons fired silver stars. Evelyn rushed to the stage, corsage abandoned, arms open. The sisters met her halfway, four bodies colliding in a tangle of braids and tears. Dr. Hayes joined, then Diego, who had flown in on his day off, then Noah with his drone. Zoe's camera captured it all. The moment the world said yes. The award was a crystal globe etched with water droplets. Leela held it high. We dedicate this to our grandmother, Evelyn Brooks, who cleaned floors so we could stand here. And to every kid who's been told they don't belong, we're building a world where water is a right, not a privilege, the judges paneled her. Chen, a UNICEF director, a Horizon exec, approached with contracts. Patent pending starts today, Dr. Chen said. NASA wants field units in Puerto Rico by hurricane season. Backstage, the rival team approached, heads low. Their leader, a girl named Olivia, offered a handshake. We were wrong. Your design's better, and we're sorry for the soda bottle comment. Leela shook her hand. Use our open source files. Help us scale. The press conference was chaos, cameras, microphones, questions in 3 languages. Leela spoke first. Discrimination tried to silence us. Science amplified us. Lena showed her sketchbook, a gallery of the journey. Luna demonstrated the purifier live, filtering DC. Tap water that a reporter jokingly claimed tastes like the Potomac. It came out pristine. Dr. Hayes took the podium last. Horizon Airlines is proud to announce the Brooks Sisters Future Fund $5 million endowed first recipients, these 3. And every flight attendant now wears body cameras. Bias has nowhere to hide. Evelyn, flanked by the sisters, spoke through happy tears. I saved in a coffee can for 2 years. Today, that can bought the future. The summit closed with a reception on the rooftop terrace. The Washington Monument glowed pink in the sunset. Venture capitalists circled like benevolent sharks. Park offered $2 million seed funding. A Silicon Valley firm countered with $3 million for 10% equity. The sisters conferred with Dr. Hayes and Evelyn, then announced, we're keeping it nonprofit. Every dollar funds units for crisis zones. Noah joined them with his drone. I'm in. Aerial mapping for water sources. Partners. Iluna grinned. Partners. Zoe's final livestream frame. The sisters on the terrace, crystal globe raised, city lights behind them. Caption: they denied them water. They gave the world clean water. Brooks sisters as fireworks lit the sky. Compliments of Horizon's PR team. Lila whispered to her sisters, we paid. We belong. Evelyn pulled them close. And tomorrow we fly home first class. All 4 of us. The monument blinked. The world watched. The future had arrived, filtered, solar-powered, and unstoppable. The morning after the summit, the Brooks sisters woke to a world that had rewritten itself overnight. Their phones upgraded overnight by Horizon's PR team to the latest iPhone S, vibrated on the Willards mahogany knit stands like cicadas. Notifications cascaded. CNN, BBC, Al Jazeera, TikTok, X, Instagram, LinkedIn. The hashtag Brooks sisters had 42 million posts. Zoe's final livestream clip. Lila raising the crystal globe as fireworks exploded. 180 million views and counting. The White House had retweeted it with the caption, "This is American innovation." In Atlanta, Evelyn's apartment building was a shrine. Neighbors had taped printouts of the sisters' faces to every door. Mrs. Rodriguez's banner now read National Champions, Atlanta's daughters. The local news van idled outside, reporter begging for a quote. Evelyn, still in her church hat, opened the door with a spatula in hand. Y'all want breakfast? I'm making grits. The story had legs and teeth. Day 1 viral fallout. Horizon Airlines stock dipped 3% at open, then surged 12% by close as Fly Horizon trended for the right reasons. Dr. Amara Hayes appeared on Good Morning America, bodycam footage rolling behind her. "We didn't just fire one employee," she said. "We fired a culture." She announced mandatory body cameras for all 28,000 flight attendants, effective in 90 days. The FAA opened an investigation into Morrison's 20-year record. 3 prior complaints surfaced, all involving passengers of color. Catherine Morrison's life unraveled in real time. Her LinkedIn was flooded with hate messages. Her husband's construction firm lost to contracts. She filed a wrongful termination suit in federal court claiming reverse discrimination and emotional distress. The airline countersued for breach of conduct. Her attorney, a former fraternity brother, leaked to TMZ that she was seeking $5 million and her job back. The internet responded with memes, Morrison's face photoshopped onto a sinking Titanic. Captioned, "Certain demographics don't fly first class." Day 3, the counterstory, a GoFund titled "Help Kate Morrison's Autistic Son," raised $87,000 in 48 hours. Was frozen when donors realized the son was 24, gainfully employed, and had publicly disavowed his mother's actions on X. "She doesn't speak for me. I'm ashamed." The money was redirected to the Brooks Sisters Future Fund, now at $7.2 million. Day 7 congressional hearing. Dr. Hayes testified before the House Transportation Committee, the sisters' purifier on the table beside her. "This device," she said, pouring murky water in and clear water out, "was built by children who were denied a bottle of Evian. Imagine what they'll do with resources." She played the flight footage on loop. Lawmakers tier fulpist the Air Traveler Dignity Act, mandating body cams, bias training, and $50 million for STEM scholarships. The bill was signed in the Rose Garden. The sisters stood behind the president, Evelyn's corsage now a White House keepsake. Day 10 Morrison's downfall. The lawsuit collapsed. Discovery revealed Morrison had texted a co-worker, "Those ghetto girls don't belong up front." The judge dismissed her claim with prejudice. She was ordered to pay Horizon's legal fees, $180,000. Her house went into foreclosure. She took a job as a janitor at Hartsfield-Jackson, pushing a mop past gates where passengers whispered, "That's her." Day 14 the sisters' response. The Brooks family returned to Atlanta first class. Evelyn's first time ever. The cabin crew wore Brooks Sisters Future Fund pins. Diego, now a lead flight attendant, served them filet mignon and read a letter from the captain, "You made us better." At home, the apartment was transformed. Horizon had renovated it pro bono, new floors, a real bedroom for each sister, a lab corner with 3D printers, and a graphene growth station. The Maxwell house can sat on a shelf encased in acrylic, labeled where it started. Leela, Lena, and Luna held a press conference on the stoop. Leela spoke first. "We don't want revenge. We want replication. Every school in Georgia gets a purifier kit by Christmas." Lena unveiled a mural on the building's side of 3 girls holding the crystal globe, water flowing into the neighborhood. Luna announced the Aquanova open source initiative, free plans, $0 licensing, global distribution. MONTH1 Global Impact. UNICEF ordered 10,000 units for Yemen. The Red Cross deployed 5,000 to Puerto Rico post-hurricane. A village in Kenya named its well Brooks Spring. Patents were filed in 47 countries. Royalties funneled back to the Future Fund, now at $25 million. Morrison's janitorial shifts became legend. Passengers filmed her emptying trash, posted with captions, "From first class to trash class." She sued for harassment. Lost again. Her attorney quit mid-trial. Month 3 the TEDx moment. Evelyn spoke at TED's Atlanta, titled $5 at a Time. She held up the acrylic-encased coffee can. "I saved nickels while scrubbing toilets so my grandbabies could sit where they were told they didn't belong. Turns out, belonging isn't a seat, it's a decision." The talk broke the internet. 50 million views in a week. Corporations pledged millions. Evelyn's employer promoted her to facilities manager with a corner office. Month 6 Morrison's final chapter. Bankrupt and unemployable in aviation, Morrison enrolled in mandatory diversity training. Ironically, the same program Horizon rolled out using the sisters' footage. She sat stone-faced as the instructor played her own words on loop. Classmates refused to partner with her. She dropped out after week 2, moved to a studio apartment in Marietta, and took a night job cleaning a ficest same buildings Evelyn once scrubbed. Month 9, the sisters' legacy expands. The Brooks Sisters Future Fund opened applications. 12,000 teens applied. 500 received full-ride STEM scholarships. The Puriferno Aquanova Mk2 with drone integration was mass-produced in a factory outside Atlanta, employing 200 locals, including Mrs. Rodriguez's grandson. Horizon's bodycam program reduced discrimination complaints by 94%. Other airlines followed. The FAA mandated cams industry-wide. Month 12, the airport reunion. 1 year to the day, the sisters returned to Hartsfield-Jackson for the unveiling of a mural in Concorsa. Their faces, the purifier, the words "We paid. We belong." Digano, a supervisor, cut the ribbon. Dr. Hayes flew in from headquarters. Evelyn wore her White House corsage, now dried and framed. Morrison was there too, pushing her mop past the crowd. She paused, looked up at the mural, and for the first time, her eyes filled with something that might have been regret. A child pointed, "That's the mean lady." Morrison kept mopping, head down, the squeak of her cart the only sound in her world. The sisters didn't see her. They were too busy signing autographs, handing out purifier kits to travelers, posing with Evelyn in front of the mural. Zoe's drone hovered overhead, live streaming to 10 million, 1 year later. From denied water to changing the world, Leela spoke to the crowd. "We started with a coffee can and a dream. Today, we're giving every kid a chance to dream bigger." Luna demonstrated the MK solar and kinetic, powered by walking. A child filled it with fountain water. It purified in 60 seconds. The crowd cheered. Evelyn pulled her granddaughter's clothes. "Y'all made that coffee, can the most expensive jar in history." Lena laughed. "Worth every penny." As they boarded their flight home first class, of course Adigo served them sparkling cider in crystal flutes. The cabin crew wore Aquanova pins. The safety video featured the sisters. "In case of discrimination, speak up. We're all in this together." The plane taxied past Morrison's cleaning cart. She looked up, met Leela's eyes through the window, and for a split second their gazes locked. Morrison's mop stilled. Leela raised her glass in a silent toast, not of victory but of survival. The plane lifted off. Atlanta shrank below, the mural a tiny beacon in Concourse. The sisters were going home, but the world had already changed. The sun rose over Hartsfield-Jackson like a slow-motion standing ovation, gilding the tails of parked aircraft and turning the Brooks sisters' mural into a living stained-glass window. Concorsa had become a pilgrimage site. Travelers, some in suits, some in hijabs, some clutching boarding passes like Rosarius, paused beneath the 40-foot fresco and whispered the same words. "That's them." The girls in the painting were frozen mid-stride, arms linked. The Aquanova purifier pouring a river of light that became the Chattahoochee, then the Atlantic, then the world. Beneath, in gold script that caught every dawn, "We paid. We belong." At 6:47 a.m., the digital ticker above Gate A17 flipped. AQUA Nova units deployed, 1,147,893. A family from Nairobi took a selfie. A flight attendant from Singapore bowed. A little boy in a Falcons jersey pressed his palm to the glass where Luna's hand was painted, as if touching a saint. Inside the terminal, the air smelled of coffee and jet fuel and something new: possibility. The former airport chapel, once a quiet nook for nervous flyers, had been gutted and reborn as the Brooks Sisters Innovation Lab. Its doors frosted glass etched with graphene lattices were locked until 8 a.m. sharp. Behind them, 3D printers hummed like beehives, graphene growth tanks bubbled with lemon-scented alchemy, and a 20-foot screen displayed real-time drone maps of contaminated water sources from Flint to Bangladesh. 200 kids from Atlanta public schools were already lined up outside, clutching permission slips and dreams. At 7:55, the sisters arrived. Leela stepped out of a black Horizon SUV first, 16 now, taller, her charcoal blazer tailored to fit the shoulders that had carried her family since she was 8. Her low bun was threaded with silver filamentless design, conductive enough to power a tiny lead that pulsed like a heartbeat. She carried a leather portfolio stamped mint in gold. Lena followed, rose gold headphones around her neck, sketchbook under one arm, the other hand adjusting the ribbon in her bun. Luna brought up the rear, midnight blue blazer over a NASA t-shirt, the Aquanova MK3 cradled like a newborn. Its solar panel glowed softly, charging from the terminal's skylights. Evelyn Brooks of NT, regal corsage dried and framed on her lapel merged last. She wore a navy suit with the White House pin and a new brooch. Graham's in-chief, Dr. Amara Hayes, now Chief Customer Officer, walked beside her in Horizon blue, her silver hair in a chignon that caught the light like a crown. Diego Alvarez Sr., lead flight attendant, lab director, held the ribbon-cutting scissors shaped like an airplane. Zoe Martinez, teen correspondent, hovered with a drone camera, live in 5, 4, 3. The crowd parted, phones rose. A little girl in pigtails tugged her mother's sleeve. Are they princesses? Leela knelt. We're scientists. At 8 o'clock sharp, the lab doors slid open with a whisper. The kids surged in, sneakers squeaking, backpacks bouncing. A boy from Bankhead printed a purifier casing shaped like a falcon's helmet. A girl from Gwinnett coded a drone to sniff lead in school fountains. Diego handed out boarding passes, free flight to any STEM conference, anytime. Leela took the podium, a glass cube etched with water molecules. 1 year ago, she said, voice steady as steel, we were denied water on a plane. Today, we're giving every kid wings and water. She cut the ribbon. Confetti by a dreidel seeded with wildflowers strained down. Evelyn's corsage trembled as she clapped until her palms were red. The lab was a symphony, printers whirred, drones buzzed. A 3D graphene lattice grew in real time, projected on the ceiling like a constellation. Luna demonstrated the MKII's new trick, kinetic charging. She walked in place, the purifier's display climbed 10 watts, 20, 30, every refugee step. She told the kids, powers a village sip. Lena led an art station. Draw your solution before you build it. Kids sketched purifiers shaped like dragons, flowers, spaceships. Her own sketchbook leather-bound, White House gift filled today's page, the lab's opening, Evelyn's corsage glowing like a star, the ticker at 1,000,000 to 147,894. Dr. Hayes unveiled a plaque beside the entrance in honor of the 47 minutes that changed aviation. May no child ever be denied water again. She pressed a button. The wall behind it became a screen, live feed from a village in Yemen, children drinking from Aquanova units, waving at the camera. The lab kids waved back, someone started crying. Then everyone was. Leela's world by noon. Leela was in a Zoom with the UN General Assembly. Her dorm overlooked the Charles, but today she wore the lab's Wi-Fi like a crown. Access is infrastructure, she told the delegates. Her speech now required reading in 47 countries. She drafted the Global Water Equity Act, $10 billion over 10 years for purifier deployment. It passed committee that afternoon. Lena's Canvas, Lena's mural series From Denied to Defined, had left the Smithsonian for the Louvre's Youth Wing. Her children's book, The Girls Who Filtered the Sky, was in its 12th language, 2 million copies sold. Royalties funded art scholarships for foster kids. Today, she FaceTimed a girl in Snow Palo who'd won one. Your dragon purifier. I built it. It saved my brother. Luna's orbit. Luna's MK3 was on the ISS, filtering astronaut urine into Perrier. She'd been headhunted by Zai. Her first email from Palo Alto. Welcome to the future you built. Today, she ran a simulation on the lab's supercomputer, Starship Life Support, 2030 to launch. 120-day Mars transit, the purifier's efficiency curve hit 99.999%. NASA called it the Brooks bottleneck breakthrough. Evelyn's legacy. Evelyn had retired at 70, promoted to Horizon Community Liaison with a corner office overlooking the tarmac. She traveled first class to speak at Google, Apple, the Gates Foundation. I saved nickels in a coffee can. You can save a child with a check. The Coffee Can Challenge had raised $40 million. Today, she told the lab kids, I scrubbed toilets so they could scrub the world clean. Now it's your turn. The house that water built the sisters had moved from the two-room apartment to a midtown Victorian for bedrooms, greenhouse, graphene lab, drone hangar, garage. The coffee can sat on the mantle, acrylic case engraved, from 5 cents to $40 million. Tonight, they hosted dinner. Dr. Hayes, Diego, Noah, Caltech freshman, Zoe CNN special, Malik Carter, FAA Director of Passenger Equity, Evelyn's church choir. The table groaned, fried chicken, collards, mac and cheese, sweet tea in crystal pitchers. The purifier sat center, filtering tap water into sparkling. Leela raised her glass. To the 47 minutes, they drank. The water tasted like mountains. The fund's first graduates, the Future Fund's inaugural Class 500 scholar-shelled commencement in the lab. A girl from rural Alabama, once without running water, clutched a Purdue aerospace degree. A Detroit boy, former foster kid, patented a lead removal add-on. They wore sashes. Brooks' sisters' Future Fund. Leela handed diplomas. You're not the future. You're the now. Morrison's ghost, Catherine Morrison. OK. Smith cleaned midnight to dawn, badge scrubbed of her past. Passengers filmed her anyway. Clips went viral, from gatekeeper to trash collector. One night, she mopped past the lab. The glass glowed with kids building purifiers. Luna demonstrated the MK3 to a girl in a hijab, the shade of Morrison's son at 15. Morrison's mop stilled. She didn't cry, but something cracked. Next week, she enrolled in night school, water quality certification. One class at a time, paid with janitor wages. The final flight 1 year to the minute of Flight 319, the sisters boarded Horizon Flight 320 to D.C. First class naturally. The crew wore Aquanova pins. The safety video starred them. If you see bias, speak up. We did. Diego served sparkling cider to the girls who changed everything. They clinked. Outside, Atlanta glittered. Inside, the MK3 filtered clouds into water. Leela looked at her sisters. We paid. Lena smiled. We belong. Luna raised the purifier. And the world drinks the plain sword. The future was clear filtered, solar powered, and theirs. 5 years had passed since the 47 minutes that rewrote the sky. And the world had learned to measure time in Brooks units. 1 boot equals the distance between a denied bottle of water and a village drinking clean. The calendar read November 13, 2030, but in concourse of Hartsfield-Jackson, every clock was set to T+5. 5 years after takeoff, the Brooks sisters mural had grown. What began as 40 feet of fresco now wrapped the entire mezzanine like a ribbon of light. Travelers walked through it literally. Augmented reality glasses free at every gate overlaid the painting with live data. Aquanova units deployed, 47,319,204. A child in Lagos pressed her palm to the wall. The mural rippled, showing her own village well now flowing clear. Somewhere over the Atlantic, a Horizon flight attendant wore the same AR glasses and saw the same child wave back. At 7:12 a.m., the Innovation Lab's doors slid open for the daily rush. The chapel-turned cathedral of curiosity now spanned 2 floors and a rooftop drone deck. Inside, 3D printers sang in 17 languages. Graphene lattice grew in aquariums the size of phone booths. A holographic Lunalife size, midnight blue blazer getted a tour. Step 1. Harvest sunlight. Step 2. Filter despair. The sisters were 21 today, but the terminal had planned the party without them. Leela Brooks stepped off a red-eye from Geneva, charcoal blazer swapped for a U on blue lanyard that read Water Equity Advisor. She carried a leather tube containing the signed Global Water Equity Act $10 billion over 10 years, her handwriting in the margins. Her low bun was still threaded with silver filament, but the lead now pulsed in Morse code, HOP. She paused beneath the mural, watching a boy from Detroit Future Fund sash across his chest demonstrate a purifier add-on that removed microplastics. She smiled the way generals smile at battlefields they no longer need to fight. Lena Brooks arrived from Paris, rose gold headphones around her neck, a rolled canvas under one arm. The Louvre had returned from denied to defined for one night only. She was delivering it to the lab's permanent gallery. Her mural had birthed a movement art for excess where every stroke funded a filter. She wore paint on her fingers like rings. A little girl in a hijab tugged her sleeve. "Miss Lena, will you draw my purifier?" Lena knelt, uncapped a marker, and sketched a dragon that breathed clean water onto the child's notebook. The girl's mother cried. Lena Brooks landed last, straight from Palo Alto. Her midnight blue blazer was shy issue, the pocket stitched with a tiny starship patch. The Aquanova MKVNO, the size of a credit card, powered by body heat, was in orbit on the first crewed Mars cycler. She carried a titanium capsule no bigger than a lipstick, the first water sample filtered on another planet, returned by drone. Her glasses were gone, LASIK, courtesy of NASA. She looked naked without them, but her eyes harp, shy, brilliant were the same. A cluster of Caltech freshmen swarmed her. "Dr. Brooks, will you sign our purifier?" She did, in purple Sharpie, to the next bathtub genius. Evelyn Brooks waited at gate A17, 75 now, corsage replaced by a platinum brooch shaped like the coffee can. She wore a tailored coat the color of dawn and held a sign, "My girl's first class forever." The terminal PA played her voice every hour. "This is Evelyn Brooks. If you see a child with a dream, give them a hand." Not a hand to hand, the reunion happened without choreography. Leela saw Evelyn first, dropped her tube, ran. Lena followed, canvas flapping like a banner. Luna sprinted last, capsule clutched to her chest. For bodies collided in the middle of concourse braids, tears, laughter, the scent of cocoa butter and jet fuel. Travelers parted around them like water around a stone. Phones rose, but no one filmed. Some moments are too sacred for screens. Diego Alvarez, no director of Global Innovation Labs, appeared with a cart that wasn't a cart. It was a mobile purifier station, Horizon Blue, dispensing sparkling water infused with Georgia peach. He wore the same kind eyes, now framed by laugh lines. "Ladies," he said, "Boeing, your chariot awaits." The cart unfolded into a golf cart limo, seats upholstered in buttery leather. 3A, 3B, 3C stitched in gold thread. They piled an Evelyn in front, sisters in back, purifier between them like a fourth passenger. Diego drove slowly, letting the terminal blur. Past the mural, past the lab's glass walls where kids waved, past the plaque that now read 47 minutes, 47 million lives. He parked at the far end of Concorsa where a new gate had been built, Gate B3 Brooks 3. A Horizon 797 waited, livery painted with the mural, tail number and 319BS. Malik Carter, for Director of Passenger Equity, suit crisp, badge gleaming, stood at the gate. "Permission to board," he said, saluting. First class, as always, the cabin was empty except for them. Seats 3A, 3B, 3C had been removed and replaced with a single round table, crystal globe from the summit now its centerpiece. The purifier sat beside it, MKV glowing softly. Diego served breakfast, grits with shrimp, biscuits fluffy as clouds, sweet tea in crystal pitchers. The safety video played. Leela at 16, voice steady. "If you see bias, speak up." We did. They ate in silence at first, the kind that comes after wars are won. Then Evelyn raised her glass to the coffee can. They drank. The tea tasted like childhood. Leela unrolled the Global Water Equity Act, signed yesterday. Every country that ratifies gets 100,000 units free. First shipment, Gaza, tomorrow. Lena unrolled her canvas. It was the mural's final panel never shown publicly. The sisters at 21, standing on Mars, purifier in hand, earth a blue marble behind them. Beneath, from bathtub to red dust, Luna opened the titanium capsule. Inside, a single drop of Martian water, filtered, clear, sealed in glass. She placed it in the crystal globe's hollow base. The globe lit up, projecting a hologram, the drop orbiting the room like a tiny moon. Diego's eyes were wet, the lab's expanding. Tokyo, Nairobi, Sao Paulo. Every airport gets a Brooks Gate by 2035, Malik added. Body cams are now global standard. Discrimination complaints down 98%. The FAA named the regulation after you, Brooks rule. Evelyn pulled 3 envelopes from her coat. From the president, invitations to the White House next week. They're renaming the Rose Garden Brooks Spring. The plane taxied, but they didn't notice. They were 21 and 75 and 30,000 feet above the world they'd rebuilt, one filtered drop at a time. At cruising altitude, the captain's voice, "This is Flight 319 BS to everywhere. We're cleared for legacy." The cabin lights dimmed. The hologram drop became a starfield. Leela spoke first. "We started with $5 and a dream. Lena, we turned tears into paint, Luna, and bathtub water into Mars. Evelyn, and I turned a coffee can into a cathedral." They landed it in D.C. Not in Atlanta, but in the space between. The gate was Gate B3, but the sign read home. Outside, the terminal had grown a garden. Real grass, real trees, a real stream fed by Aquanova units. Kids played in it, shoes off, laughing. The mural had become a fountain. Water poured from the sisters' painted hands into the stream, then into the world. Catherine Morrisunk. Smith was there, pushing a cart of seedlings. She wore a green apron now, not a janitor's jumpsuit. Her water quality certification had led to a job with the airport's sustainability team. She planted native ferns along the stream's edge, hands in soil, face unlined by bitterness. When the sisters stepped off the plane, she looked up. Their eyes met, no words. Just a nod, hers of respect, theirs of grace. She went back to planting. They went to the garden. The kids swarmed them. A boy handed Leela a purifier shaped like a rocket. A girl gave Lena a drawing of the Mars mural. A non-binary teen offered Luna a drone coded to find PFAs in groundwater. They accepted every gift, every hug, every future. At noon, the lab held a ceremony. The ticker flipped 47,320,000. Dr. Hayes No Horizon Se unveiled a statue. The sisters at 16, arms linked, purifier raised. Beneath, they paid. They belong. "We drink," Evelyn spoke last. "I'm 75, I won't see Mars. But I saw my girls go from a coffee can to the cosmos." "That's enough," the crowd roared. Confetti wildflower seeds rained again. The garden bloomed and fast forward, air glasses showing what it would look like in 10 years. A forest, a river, a world. The sisters stood beneath the statue, 21 and 4 ever 16. Leela whispered, "We paid. Lena, we belong." Luna and the universe drinks. The drop from Mars orbited their heads, a tiny, perfect moon. Somewhere, a child in a refugee camp filled a cup from a purifier and looked up at the stars. She didn't know the sisters' names. She didn't need to. The water was enough. The legacy was complete. The story had just begun. The diary was never meant for anyone else's eyes. Lena Brooks began it the night before Flight 319 on a spiral notebook scavenged from the lost and found at her grandmother's nursing home. The cover was plain blue, the kind of blue that fades to gray if you stare too long. Inside, the first page held a single charcoal smudge, her thumbprint, pressed there at 2:14 a.m. While the apartment slept and the Maxwell Housecon on the counter still held $47.32 in nickels and dimes. She wrote in pencil, then ink, then watercolor when the words ran out. The notebook grew fat with ticket stubs, pressed flowers, and the occasional tear that blotted the page like a storm. 5 years later, on the morning of their 21st birthday, Lena sat cross-legged on the greenhouse floor of their Midtown Victorian, the diary open on her lap. Sunlight filtered through the graphene panels overhead, turning the glass titanium capsule from Mars into a prism. The diary's final pages were blank until today. She uncapped a fountain pen filled with midnight blue ink, the same shade as Luna's old blazer, and began. November 12th, 2025. Night before takeoff. Grams is asleep on the sofa, rosary clicking like whirring beads. Leela is pacing, rehearsing her opening line for the summit. Water is not a luxury. It's a human right. Luna is in the bathtub, growing graphene with a hot plate and lemon juice. The apartment smells like citrus and fear. I drew the purifier tonight. It looks like a heart with wings. If we win, I'll paint it on the lab wall. If we lose, I'll paint it on my bedroom ceiling so I never forget why we tried. Graham slipped a $100 bill into Leela's pocket. Emergency money, she said. I think it's her whole paycheck. I'm scared we'll need it to buy our way back into economy. I'm scared we won't need it at all. Tomorrow we board Flight 319, seats 3A, 3B, 3C, first class. The words feel like a spell. I keep whispering them so they don't disappear. November 13th, 2025. 30,000 feet she took our water. Kate Morrison. Her smile was a locked door. She said, children like this don't fly first class. I drew her ice bullet holes in a porcelain mask. Diego tried to help. She crushed his kindness like a paper cup. Luna whispered, I'm so thirsty my tongue feels like sandpaper. I tore a page from this diary, folded it into a boat, and set it on the tray table. It sank. I cried without sound. Leela held my hand so tight I thought our bones would fuse. Then Dr. Hayes stood. The cabin held its breath. She said, You're terminated. Morrison cried. I didn't. I was too busy watching the water bottles return like miracles in plastic. I drew the moment, Dr. Hayes kneeling, Luna's purifier glowing, the cabin lights turning gold. I titled it Ascent, November 14th, 2025 Summit Day we won. The crystal globe is heavier than I expected. Leela said, we dedicate this to every kid who's been told no. I cried again, but this time the tears tasted like yes. Zoe's livestream hit 6 million. The world saw us. The world saw Morrison fall. I drew the fireworks over DC, silver stars raining on our heads like blessings. Grams hugged us on stage. Her corsage shook. She whispered, my babies made it rain. December 25th, 2025 Christmas Horizon flew us home first class. The crew wore pins shaped like our purifier. Diego served peach cobbler and called us ma'am. I laughed so hard I snorted. The apartment is gone. Horizon built us a house. For bedrooms, a greenhouse, a lab. The coffee can sit on the mantle in acrylic. Graham says it's a relic now. I say it's a relic that started a revolution. I drew the new house at midnight. The roof is a purifier. The windows are eyes. The door is open. June 1st, 2026 First Fund graduates. The Future Fund's first class walked across the lab stage. A girl from Flint held her diploma like a shield. A boy from Detroit patented a lead filter. I drew their faces, 500 of them, a constellation of second chances. Leela testified at the UN. Luna's purifier went to orbit. I illustrated a children's book. The world is drinking our water, and it tastes like hope. November 13th, 2027 2 years. The lab in Tokyo opened today. Kids in Nairobi built purifiers from soda bottles. Morrison is a janitor now. I saw a video of her mopping past our mural, head down. I didn't feel triumph. I felt tired. I drew her anyway. Not as a villain, as a woman who forgot children are human. I titled it Reflection, July 4th, 2029 Mars sample return. Luna brought back the drop. 1 drop of Martian water. Filtered through our MKV, she let me hold it. It was cold. I cried. I drew it orbiting Earth like a tiny moon. Graham said, from bathtub to red dust, November 13th, 2030, 21 we're home. The garden at Gate B3 is real, no grass, trees, a stream fed by 47 million purifiers, kids play in it. Morrison plants ferns along the edge. She nodded at us. We nodded back. Grace is heavier than revenge. Leela's act passed. Lena's mural is in Geneva. Luna's drop is in the Globe. Graham's is 75 and still speaks like scripture. I drew the final page tonight. It's us at 21, standing beneath the statue. The purifier is raised. Water pours from our hands into the stream, into the garden, into the world. Beneath, I wrote, water is not a luxury. It's a love letter. We signed it with our lives. Lena closed the diary. The greenhouse was quiet except for the hum of the graphene tanks and the soft drip of the MKV filtering the night's condensation. She stood, diary under one arm, and walked to the mantel. The coffee can glowed in its acrylic case. She opened the case, slipped the diary inside, and closed it again. The can was no longer empty. It held their story, charcoal, ink, watercolor, and all. She whispered to the dark, we paid. We belong. And the world drinks outside. The garden stream caught the moonlight, carrying the reflection of three sisters and their grandmother into the night, into the future, into every cup raised in thirst and triumph. The diary was sealed. The legacy was open. The Smithsonian's National Air and Space Museum had never smelled of lemon juice and hope until the day they installed the coffee can. It arrived in a titanium crate the size of a child's coffin, flown in on a Horizon 797 whose tail was painted with the Brooks sisters mural. The crate was escorted by Leela, Lena, Luna, and Evelyn, 25 now, the girls in tailored jumpsuits the color of graphene, Evelyn in a coat the shade of dawn. Dr. Amara Hayes, Horizon CEO, walked beside them. Diego Alvarez, now Chief Innovation Officer, pushed the dolly. Mollet Carter, FAA Administrator, held the door. Zoe Martinez live-streamed from a shoulder rig, her voice a whisper. History is being unpacked. The gallery was new hull of human flight, from coffee cans to Mars. The centerpiece, a glass pedestal beneath a skylight. On it, the Maxwell House can, acrylic sealed, 5 cents still visible on the faded label. Beside it, the crystal globe from the summit, now hollowed to hold the single drop of Martian water filtered by the Aquanova MKV. A holographic plaque rotated slowly. Brooks Unit Boo 1 Boo equals the distance between a denied bottle of water and a village drinking clean. 47,319,200 for Boo deployed, curators had argued for weeks. Too humble, some said, too small. Leela had smiled. That's the point. The unveiling was at noon. The museum closed to the public, only 200 guests, future fund scholars, UNICEF engineers, NASA astronauts, and the original Flight 319 cabin crew, Mrs. Helen Whitaker's walker clicked across the marble, her pecan tin long empty but her eyes full. Noah Klein, now a JPL lead, carried his original drone like a wedding ring. Leela spoke first, voice steady as policy. This can held $2,300 in nickels. It bought 3 first-class tickets and a revolution. Lena unveiled a final mural painted live on a canvas the size of a billboard. It showed the can orbiting Earth, water pouring from its spout into every continent. She'd worked on it in secret for a year, using ink mixed with Martian dust. Art, she said, is the memory water leaves behind. Luna placed the titanium capsule into the globe. The drop caught the skylight and fractured into rainbows. This water, she said, traveled 140 million miles. It started in a bathtub. It ends in every child's cup. Evelyn stepped forward last. She wore the dried corsage, now platinum-plated. I'm 79, she said, voice like scripture. I won't see Mars, but I saw my girls go from a coffee can to the cosmos. That's enough. She pressed a button. The pedestal lit up. A digital counter began. 0 nickels. Children Future Fund scholars lined up with jars. The first, a girl from Flint, dropped a nickel. The counter flipped. 1. A boy from Yemen added a coin. 2. An astronaut from Houston tossed a dime. 10. The pile grew. By sunset, $47,319, $21 for every boo deployed. Catherine Morrison was there, uninvited but not turned away. She wore a green apron, airport sustainability badge clipped to her pocket. She carried a single nickel, worn smooth. She placed it in the pile without a word. The counter flipped. 47,319.1. She met Leila's eyes. Leila nodded. Morrison nodded back. She left before the cameras turned. The ceremony ended with a flight. Horizon had retrofitted a 797 into a mobile lab seats 3A, 3B, 3C, now a round table with the purifier at its center. The sisters, Evelyn, Dr. Hayes, Diego, Malik, Zoe, and 200 scholars boarded. The safety video played their voices in chorus. If you see bias, intervene. If you are bias, you're grounded. The plane taxied past Gate B3, past the garden now a forest, past the stream that fed the world. It lifted off into a sky the color of graphene black, brilliant, infinite. Inside, the scholars raised cups of filtered water. Leila toasted to the 47 minutes, Lena to the coffee can, Luna to the drop that started it all, Evelyn to the children who will never be denied again. The plane banked west toward Mars. The coffee can gleamed in the museum below, nickels piling higher, the drop orbiting like a moon. The story was sealed, the legacy was open, and somewhere a child in a refugee camp filled a cup from a purifier and looked up at the stars. She didn't know the sisters' names. She didn't need to. The water was enough. The Smithsonian's National Air and Space Museum had never smelled of lemon juice and hope until the day they installed the coffee can. It arrived in a titanium crate the size of a child's coffin, flown in on a Horizon 797 whose tail was painted with the Brooks sisters mural. The crate was escorted by Leila, Lena, Luna, and Evelyn, 25 now, the girls in tailored jumpsuits the color of graphene, Evelyn in a coat the shade of dawn. Dr. Amara Hayes, Horizon CEO, walked beside them. Diego Alvarez, Chief Innovation Officer, pushed the dolly. Malik Carter, FAA Administrator, held the door. Zoe Martinez live streamed from a shoulder rig, her voice a whisper. History is being unpacked. The gallery was new hall of human flight, from coffee cans to Mars. The centerpiece, a glass pedestal beneath a skylight. On it, the Maxwell House can, acrylic sealed, 5 cents still visible on the faded label. Beside it, the crystal globe from the summit, now hollowed to hold the single drop of Martian water filtered by the Aquanova MKV. A holographic plaque rotated slowly. Brooks Unit Boo 1 Boo equals the distance between a denied bottle of water and a village drinking clean. 47,319,200 for Boo deployed. Curators had argued for weeks. Too humble, some said, too small. Leila had smiled. That's the point. The unveiling was at noon. The museum closed to the public, only 200 guests, Future Fund scholars, UNICEF engineers, NASA astronauts, and the original Flight 319 cabin crew, Mrs. Helen Whitaker's walker clicked across the marble, her pecan tin long empty but her eyes full. Noah Klein, now a JPL lead, carried his original drone like a wedding ring. Leila spoke first, voice steady as policy. This can held $2,300 in nickels. It bought 3 first-class tickets and a revolution. Lena unveiled a final mural painted live on a canvas the size of a billboard. It showed the can orbiting Earth, water pouring from its spout into every continent. She'd worked on it in secret for a year, using ink mixed with Martian dust. Art, she said, is the memory water leaves behind. Luna placed the titanium capsule into the globe. The drop caught the skylight and fractured into rainbows. This water, she said, traveled 140 million miles. It started in a bathtub, It ends in every child's cup. Evelyn stepped forward last. She wore the dried corsage, now platinum-plated. "I'm 79, she said, voice like scripture. "I won't see Mars, but I saw my girls go from a coffee can to the cosmos." "That's enough." She pressed a button. The pedestal lit up. A digital counter began. 0 nickels. Children Future Fund scholars lined up with jars. The first, a girl from Flint, dropped a nickel. The counter flipped. 1. A boy from Yemen added a coin. 2. An astronaut from Houston tossed a dime. 10. The pile grew. By sunset, $47,319, $21 for every boo deployed. Catherine Morrison was there, uninvited but not turned away. She wore a green apron, airport sustainability badge clipped to her pocket. She carried a single nickel, worn smooth. She placed it in the pile without a word. The counter flipped. 47,319.21. She met Leela's eyes. Leela nodded. Morrison nodded back. She left before the cameras turned. The ceremony ended with a flight. Horizon had retrofitted a 797 into a mobile lab, seats 3A, 3B, 3C, now a round table with the purifier at its center. The sisters, Evelyn, Dr. Hayes, Diego, Malik, Zoe, and 200 scholars boarded. The safety video played their voices in chorus. "If you see bias, intervene. If you are bias, you're grounded." The plane taxied past Gate B3, past the garden now a forest, past the stream that fed the world. It lifted off into a sky the color of graphene black, brilliant, infinite. Inside, the scholars raised cups of filtered water. Leela toasted to the 47 minutes, Lena to the coffee can, Luna to the drop that started it all, Evelyn to the children who will never be denied again. The plane banked west toward Mars. The coffee can gleamed in the museum below, nickels piling higher, the drop orbiting like a moon. And now, dear listener, let's bring this home. Imagine you're at the airport tomorrow. You see a kid Mabe in a hand-me-down blazer clutching a science fair project made from soda bottles, spying questioned about their boarding pass. What do? Do you scroll past, or do you hit record, step in, and become the doctor? Hayes in their story. Here's the funny but not really part. The next time you complain about airline legroom, remember that 3 teenagers once turned a denied bottle of water into 47 million clean drinks. Meanwhile, you're mad because your seat doesn't recline 2 inches. Perspective, served with a side of humble pea, and it's gluten-free. So here's your homework. Next time you fly, carry an extra nickel. Drop it in a coffee can, literal or metaphorical, for a kid who's saving for their first-class dream. Next time you see bias, don't just think Brooks' rule of it. And hi, if this story made you tear up, laugh, or rethink your in-flight snack choices, don't keep it to yourself. Hit that subscribe button on VN and Justice Stories faster than a flight attendant snatches a water bottle. Ring the bell, share the link, and let's flood the algorithm with hope, one filtered drop at a time, because the coffee can is still counting.